myself out the way I'd expect, the way I always expected. I remember thinking all those years when I was in school that everything was a waste of time. I remember thinking at a funeral or a wedding, same thing, this is a waste of time. I remember thinking at the mall, shopping for something I don't even remember buying. All of this is a waste of time. All of this is a waste of effort. Everything's futile. What's the purpose of it? Hadn't picked up this keyboard yet. Hadn't gotten on stage and pissed people off yet. Hadn't gotten on stage and watch people walk out of my set yet. Such a fucking broken record of myself. I would smash this record player, but it's how I've dealt with everything up until this point. You can't see it. And every time I look around, I think about how every single person is a conglomeration of all their experiences, most of which they probably have internalized, 'cause no one taught them how to analyze. Everything's a movie, 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 and I'm watching it just me. And I know that the select few that actually appreciate what I do, they're watching this movie too. No. This is the only way I know to do it. And it still doesn't feel good enough. It still doesn't feel good enough. I never feel like it's ever enough. Seriously though. It never feels like enough because there's like such a profound amount of feeling. I feel like you kind of have to be simple. Like, you have to be a simple-minded person in order to enjoy things. Because if you're, like, more of a complicated person, if you're the type of person that, like, is always thinking and you're conscious of a lot of things that most people aren't conscious of, like, yeah, that's not going to be a very fun existence. Because you have to live in a world full of people that aren't conscious, that do things every day that they're not really thinking about. And these decisions affect other people. And, I mean, I'm always, like, going back and forth in my head about all these things that I've done or not done. And, like, I'm grateful that I'm able to do what I'm able to do. But I still can't believe that I'm still alive. Like, I did not think I would live past 25. Because, yeah, it is crazy. Like, I'm really in awe of people that have that simple stuff. You know, the marriage and the children and the TV set. You know? But obviously, like, you know, Terrence McKenna made this point a long time ago, that people, like, clearly want to escape. You know, like, drugs and alcohol wouldn't be a thing that people enjoyed if they didn't want to escape. Television, I mean, television's probably the best example of that. But social media is literally designed to capitalize on all of our faults as human beings. So when I look at the world now, it makes sense. It makes sense why people are narcissistic and materialistic, and I think that the majority of people are like that. I think the majority of people are really bad. And not like they do horrible things to people, but it's like they're just kind of, they just kind of exist, you know? They're not really mindful of their experience. So a person that is mindful of their experience, like, you'd think that being mindful would make your experience better, but it actually doesn't. You know? I probably sound like I'm being so judgmental right now. I'm kind of just generalizing. I will admit that. I am generalizing. And I don't know every single person on the planet, obviously. I do not know every single person that's ever lived in every single generation of time. I have not met everybody. I don't know the thoughts in their heads. I don't know their habits. But when smartphones came out, I tried to warn everybody I knew not to get one because I said, you're not ready. You are not ready. You are not ready to have unlimited distractions. But seriously though, like, I don't think that people should even be allowed to complain. Like, I think that freedom of speech should be revoked. Until people are willing to do something besides yak. Because think about it like this, as long as we have freedom of speech, that means that we can just keep complaining about things and not have to actually do anything about it. You know? And while my Canadian brothers and sisters would argue with me and say, no, you're so lucky to be in America where you can criticize Jews. Yes, we can criticize Jews, but they still run the country. So it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. We can criticize police, but they still have the power that they do, you know? It's almost as if the Constitution is just a gaslighting document, you know? Like, I get that there are a lot of places where if you criticize this entity or this policy or this group of people, so entity, this marginalized group, like, they can literally, like, scoop you up and take you to jail. Or they could just shoot you in the middle of the street, you know? Speaking of that, 5-0. 5-0's pulling up. There they go. Well, yeah. Like, I get that. But I also believe that this so-called freedom we have is a sham. Like, they want us to think that we have that. But at any given point, they could just take it away, you know? They could be like, you're crazy. You can't have that gun. You're crazy. You can't live by yourself. You think the wrong thoughts. You can't work here anymore because you think thoughts that we don't like you thinking. You have opinions that we don't like, so you can't shop here. Or you don't want to be a medicated zombie. You don't want to be a lab experiment for the pharmaceutical companies. So you can't do this, this, and this. You know? That's what our freedom buys us. So basically, like, the people that make the money, they're the ones that have the freedom. You know, the people that sell the products, they're the ones that have the freedom because they can dump a bunch of bullshit into that product. And if anybody happens to die because of it, and those people get sued, it won't be for a while. They'll probably kill a bunch of people before anybody gets sued. Or, you know, some class action lawsuit happens and people make some money off of their family members dying or whatever. It's like, I just see the futility of everything. And to be conscious of that is so depressing. Like, I don't want to sound like I'm just being really negative and I'm just harping on it, but, like, sometimes it really does get to me and I don't want to be in this world anymore, you know? And I know for a fact that people are really feeling this way now. People are really understanding my perspective. The perspective that I've always had about this shithole of a world. The perspective that I've always had about this country and how much they lie to us about every fucking thing and the systems in place. I know, based off of the reaction of the audience when I do stand-up, I know that they agree with me. Because they love, love, love my suicide bits. So obviously they understand why a person would want to do that. Obviously, they understand that things are really shitty and not wanting to be part of this anymore is a relatable feeling. Okay? Now, I know that shit's always been bad, and I know that people have always been liars, and I know that politicians have always sucked, and I know that women have always been manipulative, and men want to fuck us, so it's almost as if they want to be manipulated too. Stop wanting to have sex with us. Just stop it. Stop it. But it's like, the world is this shitty for a reason. It's because the majority of the world's inhabitants aren't conscious of a lot of things. They're not conscious of a lot of aspects of their experience. I was always conscious of how bad the education system was. The entire time that I was in school, I didn't understand like a lot of the teachers, like why they were allowed to teach, and not just because they were women, but there were like a lot of really bad experiences that I had in public school. And no, I don't believe in equality, okay? So just stop with that shit. I do not believe in equality. Equality is bullshit. There's no such thing as equality, unless you're talking from like strictly a Christian perspective, like you're looking at everything like it all has its purpose, you know, kind of shit. That's true. But whenever we're talking about politics, it's never for the betterment of society. It's always for the betterment of a small group of people that is totally one-sided about everything. Just keep that in mind. Anytime that you argue anything, there's always going to be a significant amount of people that you're leaving out, that you're not even thinking about, you know? And just knowing that, I feel like we as a society, like we as human beings are just not fit to understand these things. We're really not. We're just not conscious enough. So when you have a whole society of people that aren't conscious, like, yeah, this is what you get. You get a bunch of fucking retards walking around with these big ass headphones and no fucking turntable. Okay? Like you see that everywhere you go. And I'm not complaining about it like I'm judging those people. I'm really not. I'm judging society as a whole and going, you did this to yourselves. But you know, we're all guilty of putting weight on things that we shouldn't, you know? And I have definitely done that with various things in my life. I don't really put much weight on people and places, because people and places don't really do it for me. But there are certain things that I have done that used to do way more for me than they do now. And I'm definitely the one that put that weight on those things. I'm the one that said, this is important. I have to do this every day, or I have to do this most of the day. I'm talking about drugs. But yeah. It makes sense though why I've done that. And it's because I just don't really feel much of a connection. So it figures that I would want to use something that would make me feel more connected to the earth and the dirt and nature and all that shit. Because initially, like the whole reason why I started smoking weed was because like I was taking pharmaceuticals and it just made more sense to me to do something that grows in the ground. But I'm understanding, like, the issue with that. I'm understanding that like a lot of the reason why I've made the decisions that I've made in my life is because I feel totally isolated. And there's a part of me that relishes that, because I don't want to fit in with this world at all. I really, really hate this world. And I'm right. I've been right since 1989, damn it. But so what if I'm right? Like, I don't really think that happiness is the goal. I think that the goal ultimately is gratitude. Like, to be grateful for whatever it is. Like, there's a part of me that is grateful for the fact that the world's so shitty, because I have to choose God. The world is always changing. The world is always moving at a rapid rate. So I need to constantly rely on something that is a constant. Never changes, it never moves, it's always there. And I can understand why people would say, oh, that's a delusion, that's an imaginary friend. A pretty big one, apparently. He's everybody's imaginary friend, right? It doesn't offend me that people say stuff like that, because they clearly just don't believe in that, you know? They just think that's a load of bullshit, because they're a rational person, you know? I'm sure they believe in shit like vaccines. So yeah, I don't know. It's a quadruple-edged sword. Like, so, there are some days where I'm like really grateful to have this perspective that I do, and to be isolated, and to have God all to myself. But then other times I'm like, wow, like, it still really fucking sucks. And I think that's okay to have all those feelings, you know? It's okay to be bitter, but still hopeful at the same time. It's okay to be angry about the state of our society, because people chose that subconsciously, and now we're all just kind of stuck with it. But I don't want to like curl up with these negative feelings anymore. That used to be something that I did a long time ago. I guess because I thought it made me a more interesting person. But I'm realizing that's not the case at all. What makes you an interesting person is how you choose to deal with adversity. Not that you have adversity. You know, a lot of people have adversity. But when the conflict's in your mind all the time, you can't really talk to people about that. Because it's mine. It's my, like, inner conflict. And so, in a way, like, it's really beautiful that I have no choice but to just give that to God, because nobody else is going to take it, you know? But at the same time, it's like, there's so much of it that I just feel like a relationship is like completely out of the question. You know, like when I accepted myself, when I accepted the magnitude of this, it really canceled out all options of normalcy, all options of like anything conventional. And I know it definitely seems like it's a self-fulfilling prophecy that I'm just like telling myself that I can't have kids and I can't do this and I can't do that. But it's like, I see myself experience things the way that I do, and I see the way that I process information, and I see how emotional I get, and I see how paranoid I get, and I can't even imagine like having a child, waking up every day with this child and having to like feed it and take care of it. It's like I'm already hyper conscious of my own experience. I can't, like, just the whole idea of like having a baby and then like having to constantly be conscious of like everything that that baby is experiencing. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm the one that's like totally off. But I don't think I am. I think that I'm all the way on. I really do. Like, if I had babies, I would just be crying all the time. Like, because of the reality of that. Just how beautiful that is, but also how terrifying that is. And like I said, consciousness is such a bitch. And I get why most people would rather check out of that. And if it sounds like I'm making some excuse as to why, like, I can't do it normal or why I can't have the same thing, it's because I'm not the same, you know? Like, I don't expect people to understand that or relate to that if they don't, you know? Like, most people aren't going to try to understand something that they don't naturally understand because they don't have the empathy. And why should they? What's in it for them to have empathy? There's typically nothing in it for anybody to have empathy. Like, empathy is one of the most misunderstood and undervalued experiences because it is an experience. It's not just a feeling. And so, much like all these other negative emotions, it's not fun, but you can capitalize on anger. You can even capitalize on depression and all this other stuff that ails you, but you cannot capitalize on empathy. Because people that try to do that are obviously narcissists. So, anyway. I said a lot, didn't I? I said a lot, and yet I still said absolutely nothing.